Gender, age, and other social markers are vital to determining the roles and opportunities for people working in the plastics sector and the environmental sanitation sector as a whole. This complexity must be accounted for in the approaches to participation, needs analysis, and program design. On this episode of Trash Talk, we delve into this all-important topic of gender and its relation to the activities within the environmental sanitation sector. You can't miss this discussion. Please stay tuned. Welcome back to Trash Talk. Today, we want to talk about advancing gender equality and social inclusion in the plastics sector in Ghana. And I have with me two very important players in the sector. I have with me Madame Elham Mumuni of the Ghana National Plastics and Action Program, or Plastics and Action Program, I suppose. And she's the gender expert on that initiative. I also have with me Mr. Doe Johnson, who is the president of the Green Waste Pickers Cooperative Society Limited. You're welcome, Mr. President.
Thank you, Madam.
You're welcome, Madam.
Thank you so much.
So I would want you to tell us a bit, which we can call the GANAP, right? Ghana NAP. And tell us a bit about what this initiative is all about.
So in 2019, the World Economic Forum partnered with Ghana as the first regional partner in Africa to host the Global Plastic Action Partnership, GPAP, which is a public-private partnership that translates commitments to address plastic pollution into meaningful action at both the global level and then also the national level through three pillars of work. One is convening communities and creating conversations. And then two is to generate new insights and action roadmaps. And then three is to catalyze strategic investment for high potential solutions. So the GPAP work is underpinned by the circular economy principle, which directly replaces the conventional take and use and dispose of model with a closed loop approach that prevents plastics from becoming mismanaged waste in the environment. So Ghana MPAP, that is the Ghana National Plastic Action Partnership, supports the creation and implementation of a circular economic framework for the plastic sector in Ghana to reduce plastic pollution. And then we work through, we worked with over 200 member public, it's a multi-stakeholder platform, and then we work with over 200 institutions from the academia, from development partners, from research institutions like the IFES Consult, and then also from with the informal sector, and of course government, Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation is the mother government partner for this initiative. And to do this effectively, we realized that there's a need for us to mainstream and advance gender equality within Ghana's plastic and plastic waste sector.
Okay, that's a huge task you have. 200 associations, and you just mentioned
members.
200 members, from producers to government to advocates to lobbyists, the whole works. Yes, and I know that the company I'm associated with, the Africa Environmental Sanitation Consult, is one of the active members on it. Kudos to you for the work you're doing. We'll come back for you to tell us more about the work that you're doing, detailed work. Now, Doe, President Doe.
Yes, Madam.
President Doe, could you tell us a bit about what Green Waste Pickers Cooperative Society Limited does?
Okay, so thank you for the question. And the Green Waste Pickers Cooperative Society Limited is a cooperative newly formed in Ghana out of 20 years Waste Pickers Association. And this cooperative is formed basically to the main objectives is to tackle the waste from the source.
Okay.
Thinking outside the landfills. If there is no more landfill, what do we do? Meaning we are going to be jobless. So we decided to form this cooperative to create a green jobs for ourselves. That is how can we come up with the name Green Waste Pickers Cooperative Society Limited.
President Do, earlier, I think behind the scenes, we're talking about how long you've been in this sector. How long have you been a picker?
Yeah, so I've been a picker for the past 21 years. When I completed SHS at the age of 16, then I flew from my village to Accra to look for something that I can continue my education. Then I end up at the landfill being a waste picker.
Okay.
And in fact, it wasn't my dream to be a waste picker, but now I feel comfortable within the zone to work as a waste
What was
picker.
your original dream?
My dream is to become a pilot.
Okay.
When I was in school, when I'm with my friends, I feel like I wanted to be a pilot in future.
I want to still focus a bit on you. For 21 years you've been picking. What do you pick and from where?
Yeah, so we pick the recyclable materials like plastic, metal, HDP, paper, and sacks and all them. But our activities only focus at the landfill. But not only those are the landfill that we can call pickers. There are our colleagues in the streets, the community, and other downstairs, and they are also doing similar things that we are doing at the landfill.
So you essentially wake up every day and go to where waste is collected, like landfill or what we call boiler.
Yeah.
And then you go and select. So is there a plan, like you wake up and say, today I'm picking metals, or today I'm picking plastics, I'm picking paper? What's the structure?
So it depends on the market. What we in the sector knows what is moving. For instance, way back in 10 years way back, there is no market for plastic. So we are not picking plastic. So immediately investors came, I'm interested in this, then we quickly divert to what can give us money quickly.
You have a family. What's the size of your family?
Yes, I have a family with 3 children.
With 3 children?
Yes.
Wow. And you're able to cater for them very well with your picking activities?
Yes, exactly.
Wow. What are some of the challenges you go? And I want to pick it from you on the ground. Then we'll go to Elham to give us what institutionally they've identified also as the challenge.
So the key challenges are the most ones are the ones that we inhale. During the activities, when we are working, there are dust and other chemicals you inhale during your operations, and also there are invisible things that you don't see that you get contact into, and also the interaction with the equipment working at the dam site, being the trucks, the machines, and even with the human beings as well. We are many, and we are about 700 in number, working at a very enclosed space, and you have to also struggle hard to get what you need to your target for the day. So always we have to we incur injuries. We encounter injuries and other accidents always because of how you need to struggle. What you see, someone is also see the same thing. So the fastest survive or the strongest survive. It's like kind of hustling mode at that period.
Interesting. I know that research has been conducted on waste pickers in the plastics sector. Could you tell us a bit about some of your findings?
So with support from Global Affairs Canada, in 2021, the Ghana MPAP conducted a intersectional gender analysis to identify the gender issue in the value chain. And then that informed a gender strategy that was developed and launched with its range of activities to advance gender equality and inclusion. And then we noticed that there was a gap during the gender analysis, issues of marginalized groups. For example, migrants, both internal and external migrant, child pickers. We have a lot of child pickers on the landfill site. And then also elderly. We have a lot of elderly people over 60 years still working at the landfill site, and youth. and then particularly extended migrants, people who come from other countries to work in the sector. So a follow-up study on intersectional inclusive context assessment was done. And from all these studies that have been done, one key thing that keeps running through is the issue of markets. They have markets, they have buyers available at the landfill site, but the biggest challenge they have is the amounts that is being paid for. For example, a kilo of PET bottles is so insignificant that you need to collect a lot of plastics to be able to get 1 kilo. And then in some areas, depending on the region that you find yourself, it's being sold for between 50 pesos and then 1 cedi 50 pesos.
Can you hold the thought on the market? I want you to break down the issues of gender. And gender, as we have to understand, is a social construct.
Yeah.
For men, women, and children,
yes.
and our specific roles in society. And so I want to understand exactly, in your findings, how many men are involved in this plastics activity, how many women, how many children, and if children, what is the age range of the children,
Okay.
working hours, all those things.
So I will take it from the 2 studies that have been done. From the gender analysis, permit me to go through. So you have the formal and informal sector of the plastics value chain. So it's made up of 39% women, 61% men. And then if you come to CEOs, businesses owners in the plastic value chain, you have 20% women and then 80% men. And then when you come to workforce of recycling companies, you have 68% women and 32% men. And then when you come to waste picking on the landfill site, you have 35% women and 65% men. And then when you come to the lower levels, such as washing, no recycling, they go through a lot of processes. So washing, sorting, and others, you find that there are a lot of women concentrated at that level. So you have 99% women and then 1% men. So within the plastic value chain, gender is a critical area that we need to look at because it affects the workforce. It also defines the kind of work that men and women would do. So, and then from the social, the assessments that was also done this year, you find out that we have a lot of youth in the sector due to the current economic situation. People finish school and there's no job for them, so you end up either at the landfill site trying to survive. So we have people who have first degree, working as waste pickers. So I think the earlier perception about waste picking has to change now, and then we have a lot of elderly people on the landfill site. And then the study also found out that 23% of workers or waste pickers on the landfill site are children under the age of 15 years. And then we also have a lot of migrants, both internal and external migrants. So you have migrant from Niger, migrant from Mali, migrant from Nigeria, and then I think Cote d'Ivoire. And then within Ghana, we have the internal migrants, people who move from their own towns into spaces like landfill sites. They have a lot of high rates or influx of migrants in those landfill sites due to the unemployment situation in Ghana. I remember one woman mentioned when I asked about marginalization, and then she said, she's been in the sector for more than 20 years, getting to 30 years, and then at that time they were highly marginalized and under-recognized. Nobody wanted to be associated with them, but due to the unemployment situation, all the people who laughed at them at that time are now in the landfill sites with them. So we have different roles of men and women. And then even in the landfill sites, you have a lot of women doing the picking. Even with the picking, the women are not able to pick valuable materials like the men would do. For example, you have the kufuor gallons. Mostly if there's a struggle between a man and a woman, the man will pick it. And then the women mostly will pick the PET bottles and then the shashi rubbers. So gender plays a very critical role in the plastic and plastic waste sector.
I want us to look at the child labor situation in here. What's according to the research, the youngest of ages that we've seen in the sector, in the plastics sector?
Oh, I have seen as young as 5 years, but let me differentiate it. We have waste pickers who come along with their children to the landfill sites, and because they see their parents doing it, they would also do. And then you have pickers who, very young children, sometimes even sent by their parents to come and pick.
How young?
As young as 6, 7, 10, 8 years. And one of the landfill sites, a lady heard that people were coming to visit the landfill site. So she came, and then she interacted with me. What she said was that she is not a picker, but she sent her 8-year-old son to come and pick, and then they can sell and get something to eat. So you have parents who are there with their children. You also have parents who sit in their house and send their children to go and pick for them to survive on. And then most of these children are not in school. And then for those who are in school, they are not consistent school goers. And then for the young ones, we have free compulsory basic education in Ghana. Yes. But you still find children who are supposed to be in school on some landfill sites. It's not all the landfill sites you can find children. And then for landfill sites with tight security and then very strong leadership, it's difficult to find children there. But for those landfills that are open, you find a lot of children. I think the biggest challenge with the child pickers is they are exposed to money so early in life that sometimes the recommendation we make is to work closely with social welfare to make sure that they've gone back to school. But how do we retain them?
I want us to talk about our social welfare system. It's a whole topic by itself. So, President Doe, tell us, do you make special concessions, give special reliefs or special treatment to the women and children you work with when you go to pick?
Yeah, so what I would say is for us in Boom, we don't have child pickers.
Okay.
But we have the women, the old ages, and the migrant, as my sister said. But what we also do to help the women as an association is to allocate a special place for them where only the women can pick because they don't have the strength to struggle with the men. And also the height of the mountain, they cannot climb. So we would arrange with the managers to have a place where 2 or 3 cars can dump, and you find only women there. And also we have a group which we locally call the Women Caucus. And this group they only have women meetings, discuss women issues, and bring to the leadership. Then we send to the general meeting to be looked at. So these are some of the things we do, and it's helping the women in the sector, particularly when they sell their materials. They don't know the kilos inside. So whatever is given to them that this is your money, they take it and go. So we also try to educate them how they can know the price of the materials and also the kilos, the scales. So we need to teach them, take them through some trainings to understand. So if you weigh 5 kilos, you know you are getting this amount. If you weigh this kilo, you know this is what you are getting.
You are truly a president, President Johnson, President Doe Johnson. I mean, it's interesting. You have the Women's Caucus.
Yeah.
And so you are paying attention. What mechanism or what effort did you put, or what plan did you put in place to prevent children from coming to pick?
Yeah, so we have a constitution that says that if you are not 18 years above, you can't come to the landfill. So we form a committees around the landfill. We have 4 committees, and these committees are in charge of driving away the children. Day in, day out, they have to check if no children is around. And if you are caught as a child, we will discipline you and will find a way to report you to your mom or your father and whatever. So when my sister came, she is interested to talk to some children. And those that we have to look for her to be interviewed, they are running away because when we call them, they know what we will do to them. So these committees work strongly both day and night to prevent the children coming to the dam site.
Well, I want you, I think earlier you were telling us about the number of hours they work. And from both perspectives, I would want to understand the precarious conditions under which they work. About how many hours are we looking at for picking, for the
picking?
pickers? Yeah.
So for picking, I think they work between sometimes 6 a.m.
Yes,
to 6 a.m.
6 to 6.
6 to 6. That's when the landfill site is open. And meanwhile, they have, I think they have peak level where you have a lot of trucks and tricycle coming into the landfill site. So that's their peak period. So if you go to do anything around that time, I think you are just worrying them. For example, in the morning, they have a lot of trucks going in, and then also tricycle going in. But still, on the gender dimension in the plastic sector, I think one of the key question everybody asks me is, what does gender have to do with plastic? And then what I keep saying is that the plastic value chain is a perfect example for us to know how gender roles and the norms bring about inequalities. And then once we don't address them early, then we would have all the issues that we've been talking about. So the plastic itself is gendered, and then it affects men and women differently, and then it also affects the way we use it. For example, the gender roles that we have been socialized over the period will define how you and I will interact with plastics. You find a lot of young girls in the house. The first person they will send to go and buy cocoa is a young girl in the house. And of course, they'll put it in plastic. And then for us, also at the household level, how do we segregate to ensure that we don't mix it? And then for mostly, it's women who goes to the market. And then we come back with a lot of plastics. Yes. So there's so much about gender interacting with plastics.
What are some of the harsh conditions you identified that they work under, apart from the number of hours?
Yes. They are exposed to, in some landfill site, they are exposed to medical wastes. And then when I talk about medical waste, of course, the public hospitals may have incinerators, but we also have private hospitals that also dispose of their medical wastes. And then sometimes they are exposed to all kinds of human, either blood, strains, human body, and all of that. And then death. And one landfill site, it was reported that for last year, they lost 2 child pickers due to picking on the landfill site, because the truck is coming. When you see them running towards the truck, and these are very young people, so all their mind and focus is on what they are going to get. So they don't listen. So they are shouting and they are still running. And then before you realize, the truck reversed back and then you just crashed them.
Goodness.
And then you also have hazardous environments. The environment that we work where if you visit the landfill sites, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
It's a different environment altogether, and they are exposed to that environment. And then also thefts of their materials, because they lack storage facilities. It's difficult for you to say, okay, these are my materials, I'm keeping it here safe. Sometimes by the next morning, somebody else have come to pick it. And then in some landfill sites, they lack equipment like bulldozers to work with. And then it's the bulldozers that push them, and then they can get the materials to pick. And then also, I think theft, I've mentioned theft already. Yeah.
I can, President Doe, tell us, the African Environmental Sanitation Consult conducted a research, I think last year or last 2 years, and we realized in Greater Accra, Ashanti region, and the Northern region, and we realized that pickers don't like PPEs. They don't like boots. Some want to sit on tricycles just bare-chested in the heat. They don't want to wear gloves, no mask, nothing. What is the issue? Is it the difficulty of the work that doesn't allow you to want to protect yourself And so, I mean, what is the issue with that?
So I think we need to also define the real pickers. Those that on the tricycles, we normally call them the collectors.
Yeah.
So for them, they have their own system of working. But for us, as waste pickers, especially when you come to Boom, we are well dressed with PPs. So
When you say well dressed, I'll be interested. Particularly, we are talking about medical waste, so you can find syringes and things in there. And so, do you wear boots?
yeah, we wear boots, helmets,
Okay.
safety reflectors, hand gloves, and long sleeves. Mostly the overalls and things that will protect you perfectly.
But if you're wearing overalls on the landfill, I mean, the first time I visited the landfill, I was like, even the mountainous nature of it, I was scared. How are you all dressed up like this, and you still be able to carry yourself up and collect?
Yes, we feel comfortable. It's because it's not your work. We have been there for several years. In fact, some people came and they find it difficult to drink water when they are around the landfill. And
Why?
The environment is not conducive for them, or they think. So that is where our lack of respect started. Like, these people are not okay. They are not human beings. Yeah, but we have been into it for several years. So whatever gloves you are wearing, whatever dress you are putting on, you will be able to do work perfectly.
I liked the points you raised a little bit, which from the IFES research also came out clearly, and it's got to do with how you are marginalized, how people look down on you, how people disrespect you, and it affects even the mindset. Actually, one of the people we interviewed in Ashanti region kept on talking about how they can't even find wives. Does it also happen to your area?
It happens. So mostly what happens in the sector of waste pickers, they marry each other.
Okay.
So you can go to landfills and find somebody and his wife, somebody and the daughter, and all the whole family is working because of lack of the stigma on waste pickers, and people don't want, mainly the community. If they know you are working at the dump site or you are working at the boiler, they don't want to even talk to you, like you are not okay.
You're not okay, meaning what? Like you have a problem?
Yes. So one of the officials told her that when he is driving through and he see us working, he thought there are people who are not, I don't know, mentally
challenged
people are the people working at the dump sites.
Wow.
So that is how they look us, but that is not how we are.
Interesting things going on there. I mean, earlier we were talking. You are giving an example of a whole family.
Yes.
And what can you tell us a bit about that?
Yes. So in the landfill side, I think it's for those of us who are outside who feel that the people there are not normal. I remember the assessment that we conducted with support of Global Affairs Canada. We also had validation sessions in all the regions that we collected the data from. And then one of the key things we wanted to do was to bring the informal sector waste actors and then the district assemblies together. So these sections were held within the assembly halls, the district assemblies halls. So one of the planners said, hey, for me, if you had asked me to plan for them, I would just think that they are mad people, in quotes. So I'll get a home and put all of them there. So that's the perception a lot of us have. But during the study, we found out that sometimes you have a whole family of maybe 3 generations. So you would have the father and mother, and then you have their children, and you have their children's children, and sometimes even the 4th generation. And they're so happy there. And then one key thing that I keep saying is the kind of support system that they have. They support each other. And their social support system is so solid that I haven't found anywhere. And then they have slogans like touch one, touch all. Together we are one. So solidarity at the landfill site is so high. And also, I think the gender relations. For PON, if we want to use PON to measure how landfill sites operate, we would end up putting the other people at a very disadvantaged space because PON is well organized, it's well regulated, they have their constitutions, and they work so well. But in other landfill sites, you don't find it there. Even sharing the assessments, most of the waste pickers, when I shared the findings from the other regions, they couldn't believe it. But that's the reality.
What are we doing to give a voice to this marginalized group of pickers? Plastic pickers specifically.
Yes. So we have the National Plastic Policy, no, the National Plastic Policy Management.
Something like that.
Yes. No, let me just refer.
No, it's fine.
It's
so
fine.
Tell us the
so
content.
yes. So and that's one of the principles is to it's on the issue of gender equality and then also informal sector integration. However, it hasn't clearly spelled out what's the outline of activities to support and advancing or to support to give this group opportunities. So again, the Ghana National Plastic Action Partnership, we launched a gender strategy. So with that, in that strategy, there are a lot of recommendations that have been made. For example, to support women with finances to be able to climb up the ladder. You have women who have worked as waste pickers for more than 30 years, and they are still where they are because it's like from hand to mouth. Because within the value chain, when you want to move up to recycling and other areas, you need a lot of finances. It's capital intensive, and then it needs a lot of investments. We also have the gender analysis with recommendations that was also done by the Ghana MPAP, again with support from Global Affairs Canada. And then also we have the intersectional assessment that have also been done to support. All this is done in an effort to support, to advance gender equality within the informal, particularly the informal waste sector, and then also to support social inclusion, to ensure that the different group of people. One of the things is that men and women are treated as homogeneous group, but from our study, we always insist on intersectionality. So that goes beyond men and women to issues around age, to issues around sex, to issues around ethnicity, to issues even around settlements. So that is why we went deep to understand the issues of both external and internal migrants, and then also to understand the issues of child pickers, and then also to understand the issues of youth. Now we have over 60% of the pickers are youth between the ages of 18 and 35. And of course, the issues are not the same as child pickers. The issues the youth have are not the same as child pickers. The issues the elderly have, we have women and men who are over 80 years and are still at the landfill site. You know, so they have their issues. So it's also for us to understand so that policies, programs, and activities can better planned to address the different needs of all this group of people.
Oh, wow. I mean, you have people in their 80s.
Yes.
Working as pickers.
As pickers.
So with a research like what you have, how is that influencing policy? How is that influencing policy? I can understand the implementation part, but policy formulation. Which institution, which government institution is obviously the recipient of your research for action?
All right. So I mentioned that the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation is we are hosted there. The Ghana MPAP is hosted at the Ministry of Environment, Science, Technology and Innovation. And of course, we also work closely with the Ministry of Sanitation. So, I mentioned that the platform is made up of 200 member organization, which is a public-private partnership. And it's also a multi-stakeholder platform. So you have across DPs, you have research institutions, you have academia, you have the informal sector, you have plastic producers, you have plastic companies, and all of us involved. So, and then we work through 6 task forces. You have the Inclusion Task Force that I work closely with Johnson and all the informal sector actors, and then other CSOs within the environmental sector. We have the Financing Task Force, we have the Behavior Task Force, we have the Metrics Task Force, that's FS Consult co-chair.
Yeah.
And then we also have the mentioned Behavior Tax, Innovation, and then also Policy Task Force. All these task forces are tasked with an objective. So for us as Inclusion Task Force, our main objective is to advance gender equality and inclusivity within the Ghana MPAP. So in responding to whom that the institution that we target. So we target all these institutions playing different role. For example, one of the key recommendations from the action roadmap is to have the informal sector and the women represented in all these spaces, in all these committees. So if you look at even the way our co-chair is structured, mostly you would have men and women. If there are two, you would have one man and you would have one woman to demonstrate how inclusivity the process is, and then to demonstrate to other partners how gender and inclusion should be tackled when it comes to plastic and plastic waste management.
Yeah, thank you. We can't, it can't be all bad, the stories with plastic picking or for pickers. Tell us some of the inspiring stories on your journey, 21 years of picking. What are some of the inspiring stories? Some of the inspiring people, some of the inspiring and helpful organizations that you've had to interact with?
Yeah, so I'll start by acknowledging the WIGO, which is an NGO that supports our work truly by strengthening the organization and also arranging exchange visits for us to other countries to learn from their models. There we get to realize that we are not the only people doing the work, not only in Ghana, that there are waste pickers.
Yeah.
So we found our colleagues in different countries doing similar job with similar challenges, and how some of them were able to overcome the challenges through the government intervention, how they were able to be integrated, recognized, and have some kind of model that the ministry or the government, both the government and the informal sector sit on the same table and take decisions which will favor them, and also listen to their challenges and demands and responded to it. So way back, this NGO made us to be a bit recognized in Ghana. That is how MPAP came to our aid, which I'm a member of the Inclusion Task Force, or let me say, the co-chair.
Oh, you are the co-chair.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
Inclusion Task Force. So, and also being into this work, I think there are a lot of more inspiring stories needs to tell. When you listen to the stories of waste pickers, I think they have their own model of sustainability. They have their own way. So it's like they have their own company and they are working. They are business people. They know what they are doing. They enjoy the work, so they don't have problem with anybody.
How is government helping you?
No, so far we haven't seen government intervention in our work, especially with support like equipment like PPEs and all those things. It was in 2020 when the COVID hit, we sent a lot of letters to ministries and all that. No one responded. So as for governments, yes, we got a bit recognition through MPAP, but we are always advocating that we should always be at a discussion table where decisions have been made to tackle waste or plastic issues. Right now, there is a plastic treaty negotiation ongoing, and we feel like the government should support waste pickers or to involve waste pickers to be part of some of these programs, which this discussion can come, we can bring them closer to our regions or our country in relation to the waste pickers and other colleagues who are also into plastic picking, but they don't know the end or the decisions that are taken to end plastics. So for government, yes, we are still saying that we need these demands to be answered.
We are going for a little break. We'll be back after the break to continue these amazing, amazing initiatives and discussions on plastic waste. Welcome back to Trash Talk. Today on Trash Talk, we are talking about advancing gender equality and ensuring social inclusion in the plastic waste subsector. And I've been here with Elham and President Johnson himself. Yes. I would want you to give us something to take away with.
Okay.
On the work of the Ghana National Plastics and Action Program. Partnership. Yes. And what you seek to do, what the future, what support you need from other stakeholders that you may not be getting. But then general take on your work.
So for general take on, I think so far with all the stakeholders within the platform, they've been very supportive. A lot of them have volunteered their time. A lot of them have been generous with resources. I mentioned, again, Canada have been supporting to advance gender equality and social inclusion within the plastic and plastic waste sector. You have the World Bank, you have AFAS Consult, you have Zoom Lion, all these groups and many more others. Of course, with the informal sector, they've always volunteered their time to discussions, to make contributions, and then also to contribute to all the policies that are currently ongoing. You have extended producer responsibility that is currently being discussed, conversations around it. So yes, I think the platform, the Ghana MPAP have been the stakeholders have been very supportive to the work. But again, when it comes to gender, we look at the gender segregation of labor within the sector, where you have a lot of women and marginalized group mainly working in the informal sector. And then this group don't exist in isolation. So how do we as stakeholders, make progress to ensure that their contributions to the waste management sector is recognized? Because one of the key things they keep saying is that they've been under-recognized and marginalized, criminalized for a very long time, all the words you can use in them. But I think through the Ghana MPAP, as Johnson mentioned, they are getting a bit of recognition because there are spaces for them to sit with policymakers. We can still do better. Yes. But currently, we have opportunity for them to sit with policymakers, to sit with manufacturers, and then to sit even with the formal waste management company, so that we can dialogue and agree on how we can support everybody within the value chain to progress and advance.
President Doe Johnson, tell us something to take away with. Today you've revealed a lot, the marginalization, how I like the part about the Women's Caucus. I like the Constitution. What is it? We have a lot of youth unemployment going on now. I want you to tell us about this in your parting words, so that those who would want to join you may come. If there are people watching the program and they have ways to support your association, they would also come in. Let's hear from you.
I will say one of the things that MPAP did for us is to bring all stakeholders within the chain together, which is very interesting because the private companies or the recyclers, they don't want to have any discussion with us in those days because they are the people buying our materials. So they don't want to be in a platform where they'll be discussing with the picker in terms of pricing and all that. But now we can sit and talk, and this is where we see that our problems are a bit solving. And also, I wanted to highlight that we need to support the migrants and also both the internal and the external migrants, purposely because many of them are the generation of waste picking. Many of them started this work, as we know in those days. Sorry to say, they will say Northerners are the people who like these dirty works way back. And in our country, I realized that for my association, which is about 20 years about, by then it was external migrants who have interest in picking, and today it turns to something bigger and broader. So we need to also include them, all these people in the chain, especially the women who are migrants. They find it difficult to come out because they will say, look at this nice girl is working at the Bola Top. So this kind of stigma and these words make the women draw back. And when you come to the landfill, you see the women touch their face all over than the men because they are shy. They don't want to be exposed. So when you come with your camera, they'll run away. So I need this perception should go away from waste pickers, and they should include us, involve us. We had a good expert in waste management, so we call ourselves experts. We know what we are doing. We can tell you this material can be recycled, this cannot be recycled, which we haven't gone to any school to learn it because of the experience and all that. So we always say, in terms of waste management, there are a lot of space that we create for the landfill. Also, the huge material that we divert to the circular economy, the quantities and all this, we need to be recognized and supported.
Thank you very much. This is almost as I was about to say we would want to call for a second serving, but as and when we need you on the show, we will call you. Thank you for coming. I've been in the studio with Madame Elham Mumuni. She's the gender expert for the Ghana NPAP association, put together in the environmental space for all people associated with plastics in Ghana. And then I was also here with the inspiring future pilot, Joe Johnson, who is the president of Green Waste Pickers Cooperative Society. We talked about today advancing gender equality and social inclusion in the plastic waste sector. One thing we'll take away with us is the fact that an association like the Green Waste Pickers have for them a constitution. They have a women's caucus, and that's an eye-opener for all of us. Want to say a big thank you for joining us on Trash Talk. Join us again next time as we delve in deeper and deeper into more environmental and sanitation issues. Thank you.